Health is wealth. The richest man without it is poor. Today I want to talk about hypertension, or what they also call high blood pressure. Do you know that high blood pressure or hypertension is killing more people today than the popular HIV/AIDS? Many people today are dying from heart attacks, from strokes, or are a result of having high blood pressure in most cases. But what is high blood pressure? High blood pressure simply means your heart is beating much faster than what it was supposed to do normally. For many people, the average heartbeat is supposed to be 120/80. Of course, some people it can be 110/70. It can be their normal. But in most cases, it is 120/80. And what happens now for this pressure to be higher? There could be many causes. Some high blood pressures are temporary. For example, if you are worried about an interview, you are getting married tomorrow, or something is going to happen, an event that you need to attend or to facilitate, it may raise your high blood pressure a little bit. So we can't call that a disease as in hypertension, because normally after the event, the pressure will come back to normal. But we want to focus more on this chronic hypertension. You know, people who have been on medication for maybe months or even years, trying to control their high blood pressure. What happens? There are so many factors, but we just mention a few. One of them is taking alcoholic drinks. People who take alcohol, lots of alcohol, they are most likely to suffer from high blood pressure. And even those who smoke, smoking is one of the risk factors of hypertension. And the same applies to people who eat a diet, food which is high in cholesterol. So you are talking of things like beef, things like chicken, sausages, mayonnaise, cheese, food that is very, very high in fat, which becomes solid at room temperature. And this is the fat that actually what we call cholesterol. The same way you see this fat in your plate when you have cooked your beef or you have cooked whatever a fatty food that you are eating at home. When it cools down, you see the soup becoming solid in your plate. That same thing that you see in your plate, that's what happens in your arteries. This, after eating that fat, you are going to digest it in your stomach using the most powerful bile from your liver. After absorbing it, it will become solid again in your arteries. And, and that's actually what triggers high blood pressure. This cholesterol, it will make the passage of the blood narrow, and that will trigger your heart to start pumping your blood very fast, forcing the blood, oxygenated blood, to go through this narrow passage. But there are consequences to that. As the blood is coming with force, it can actually push these fats and bring them to a place where they can clog or block an artery. If it happens somewhere closer to your heart muscle, it can easily cause a heart attack. If it happens somewhere in your brain, you can easily have a stroke. And indeed, many people today have died from stroke, have died with heart attacks because of this so-called high cholesterol fat. But the reason is the food we eat today, lack of exercise, and sometimes if you are also taking too much salt. You know, many of us, we have a habit. We walk into the restaurant or we walk into our dining rooms. Before we even taste the food, we start applying a salt to whatever food we are eating. Remember, the more salt you use, the more potassium you lose, and that causes your arteries to lose its elasticity. And what will happen, these arteries, they fail to become flexible for the blood to flow through. And that can also trigger hypertension. So how do we prevent hypertension? Eat a healthy diet. Eat food which is low in fat. Where possible, cut off the animal fat. Enjoy the legumes, the fresh vegetables, and the fruits and the whole grains. And go for exercise. Walk, walk, and walk. The more exercise you do, the more excess body fat you burn. And at the same time, do yourself a favor, avoid smoking, and avoid taking alcoholic drinks, and spend much time praising God. I have found that to be a good tip for managing stress. Many people who have hypertension because of stress is because they don't have a God who can handle or whom they trust can take care of their problems. People who believe in a God who is greater than their problems, they have lower stress levels because every time they have challenges in life, they bring them to the Lord in prayer. With all that, you can enjoy good health.